Capitol Report is a production of Senate Media Services.
This week, the Senate votes to limit the governor's emergency powers and sets budget targets for the next biennium. A lawmaker and real estate agent makes the case for student loan borrowers' rights, and a key DFLer outlines the governor's plan for education. Stay tuned for this week's Capitol Report. Welcome to this week's program. I'm Shannon Loehrke. On Monday, the Senate pushed back against Governor Walz's continued use of peacetime emergency powers and passed a bill with tripartisan support that would require legislative approval for future extensions of emergency power.
When Section 12 of statute was envisioned, it was amended to create those emergency powers we're currently under right now by the executive branch. I don't think the authors necessarily envisioned the use of those powers for months, let alone over a year as we are right now. Yet that's what's happened. Our Constitution creates three co-equal branches of government: the judicial, the legislative, and the executive. Those branches are made to work together, not rule over each other.
Yes, indeed, there does come a time for the end of emergency powers, but this nation is not at that time. 48 of our 50 states still operate with a governor with emergency powers. What Senate File 4 proposes to do is not to work with the legislature, but to provide the majority in the Senate with an ability to veto and block the governor's emergency powers. If 48 out of 50 states in this country, 53 of our 55 territories, and our president still operate under emergency powers, then I ask you members, is this the time when it looks to you like emergency powers need to come to an end?
We will do what needs to be done, but there has to be collaboration and balance, and the voices across Minnesota need to be heard. We are a year into this fight. We will be much more effective if we can be more collaborative, and that means more voices at the table.
It's ironic that we take up Senate File 4 on the Ides of March, the date that the Roman Senate rose up in rebellion against Julius Caesar to prevent him from becoming a dictator and converting their republic to an empire. History has judged that the senators overreacted to the threat and did irreparable harm to their cause, speeding the end of the republic. Governor Walz is not a dictator, and we here are not murderers, but the tension between legislative and executive power is timeless and necessary, and I hope to work with my colleagues to resolve it for our day. Senate File 4 is not that resolution.
I'm just a country attorney from Northwest Minnesota, but when I look at this, when I look at the documents supporting this, I don't see an end to the emergency powers written in there anywhere. What I do see is simply a way to engage the legislature in defining what our policies are going to be.
The legislature is a deliberative body. It is not set up to react in a quick, expedient, decisive manner, which is exactly what a pandemic or a peacetime emergency would require.
He has used his emergency powers to do a one-size-fits-all for the entire state when there might be an issue in Bemidji, might be an issue in Minneapolis, there might be an issue in a pocket here or a pocket there. That is the debate. Whether we're going to continue that style of government or not.
So we ought to pass this bill today because this would correct what the Supreme Court and what the Constitution declares to be the roles of the various branches of government.
And on Tuesday, the Republican-led Senate released their budget targets for the coming biennium as the painstaking work of crafting the state's next two-year budget gets underway. The $51.9 billion proposal would devote 40% of the budget to E-12 education, including funding to address educational disparities, increase teachers of color, and improve students' mental health. 31% of the budget would be directed toward health care expenditures, including continuing investments in the Health Care Access Fund. The plan would also provide $591 million in tax relief through several measures already passed by the Senate, such as relieving the tax burden on Minnesota employers who accepted federal Paycheck Protection Program dollars and unemployed Minnesotans who received an additional federal unemployment stipend. The Senate budget plan proposes increases in several budget areas. a $216 million increase for transportation projects, and an additional $100 million for jobs and economic development to aid recovery from COVID-related unemployment. The Senate is also proposing $40 million for broadband expansion and seeks a 5% reduction in state agency budgets. Senate Majority Leader Paul Gazelka and Senate Finance Chair Julie Rosen issued a joint video statement about the proposal.
The Senate is going to put out a great plan for how to use the resources that we have. And as you think about it, we have billions of dollars coming in from the federal government. Minnesota has a surplus, and what do we do about it? Well, here's what we don't do. First of all, we don't raise taxes. We are not going to raise taxes. The governor continues to talk about raising taxes. Even with all that money, not going to do it. The second thing we're not going to do is we're not going to defund the police in any way. They need the resources to keep our streets safe. We'll make sure they have them. So what are we going to focus on? Well, it's going to be Minnesota's priorities. We're going to make sure that we finish off COVID, making sure the kids have the resources they need, that our job providers have the resources they need to get our economy back on track.
We've got a tremendous amount of federal funds coming in and stimulus checks to help our economy get back. And now that we've seen a budget surplus above and beyond what we expected and all the one-time funding that we have available, what I can tell you is that we are not going to be continuing to grow government. We have to make sure that we take a good, strong look at our government, because that's where this surplus came from, is less government spending.
And Senate Minority Leader Susan Kent issued a statement in response to the Senate Republican plan that reads, in part, as Minnesotans are still dealing with the consequences of a historic pandemic that has hit low-income workers the hardest, Senate Republicans' top priority is to cut funding for the services that are most crucial in this moment: K-12 education, jobs, childcare, housing, broadband, and, inexplicably, public health. Minnesotans have significant needs, but very little support for them under this Republican plan. According to Forbes, there are about 45 million Americans who collectively owe $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. Senator Zach Duckworth is author of a bill that would ensure student loan servicers in Minnesota handle those loans responsibly, and I spoke with him this week. You, as Senate author, and Representative Zach Stevenson, a DFLer in the House, are sponsoring a Student Borrowers Bill of Rights. How did the two of you come to collaborate on this bill?
Yeah, Zach's a great guy. I've come to know him, obviously, and working together on this bill. And I think I had made it known that I'm willing to listen to any good ideas, no matter what party they come from. And he's the same and very like-minded in that regard. Plus, we both have two awesome first names. So we figured, hey, who better to partner with than each other when looking at a bill like this and how we can, really help people that are confronting a pretty serious issue.
Yeah, I did notice the two Zachs. This bill would put into place protections for student borrowers by licensing loan servicers through the Department of Commerce. What will licensing these companies achieve?
So licensing will really bring a degree of accountability into this process that's lacking in many regards right now. So obviously I'm a Republican, not necessarily a fan of additional regulation or licensing, but in this instance, I really think it's justified and can do a lot of good, because really what we're doing is we're protecting the consumer and protecting students. And that's what this licensing process will allow the Department of Commerce to do. We don't want young people getting taken advantage of, and this is a way that we can prevent that from happening.
At the press conference where you unveiled this legislation, Destiny Belmont told her story of getting an advanced degree and then believing that it would be forgiven over time through a loan forgiveness program because she was working in the public schools, I think, as a counselor. In fact, her provider made frequent changes to the loan, and when she thought she had achieved loan forgiveness, she found she still had a long ways to go. If this bill were law, how would her outcome have been different?
And that's a great question. So it's stories like that that really kind of get me fired up about this process and the situation in general that folks are facing. Nobody should have anything changed up on them without their knowledge, or not have the loan payment schedule be working as it was described to them. So what this bill would do is prevent that from occurring from the very get-go. Would really deter the situation from occurring altogether. And that's how folks like Destiny would be, safeguarded in the future, really not put in that position, period.
You often bring your real estate background to bear on this issue because as a real estate agent, you have a fiduciary duty to your clients to make sure that they make smart financial decisions. What protections do people buying homes have that student borrowers do not?
Another excellent question. So as a real estate professional, I have a license from the Department of Commerce here in the state of Minnesota, and so do a lot of loan originators who are originating mortgage loans for folks that are purchasing that property. So you've got two licensed individuals, not including the title person that's also going to be licensed. It's a part of that process. So really the state has shown that this process is so complicated and that consumers deserve those protections and safeguards if they have authorized or mandated licenses for a few different professionals throughout that process. And because of that, consumers are protected. There's accountability, there's transparency, they have to be educated and know what they're signing on to. That same process, that same school of thought, no pun intended, should really get applied to young people who are looking to pursue a higher degree or education. That's all this seeks to do. It's about protection, it's about transparency, it's about accountability.
But then to that point, to take this the next step, would it make sense for student loan borrowers to have to go through more education and more to make sure that they really understand what they're signing on to before they even enter college? And we have to remember these often, not always, but often are young people.
Right. Well, so I've got three younger brothers. They all went through the college process, and to watch them, they would often call me or my parents to say, what's going on? What am I signing on to? What does this mean? How's it going to play out? How does it affect me? And so what I'm hopeful is the education piece of this gets solved through licensing, because as somebody has that license and is working with this person, they have to sort of educate them about the process. That's what I do when it comes to buying or selling homes, educate the public about that process, advise them and protect them along the way. So that's really what it seeks to do in terms of trying to help those young folks. We just don't want them to get taken advantage of. But what's important is to understand is this. Agreeing to take and accept a loan is a very big responsibility. And I don't want to take that away from young folks as they're agreeing to accept this financial support. That's important. They need to realize and understand that they have that responsibility and commitment to pay that loan. But just equally important is the commitment we have to those young people to make sure that they're not being taken advantage of and they're being safeguarded when they do accept to take those loans and further their education.
Now, this isn't part of the bill, but I'd like your thoughts on this to continue this comparison between home buying and student loans, because home buyers can refinance at a lower interest rate, but student borrowers cannot. Is that fair?
Well, I think there are a lot more protections and options afforded to people who have home mortgages, and I would like to see some of that flexibility afforded to folks that have student loans. I think that's only fair. I think it's the right thing to do. And oftentimes, these young folks who have these loans, they just aren't aware of the many options that they might have available to them to try to renegotiate or improve their financial situation or look at different terms, oftentimes because their best interest is not put at the forefront of the transaction like it is when somebody's looking to purchase a home or take out a home loan. The client's best interest comes first. We need to make sure the best interest of our young people is coming first when they're seeking a higher education.
Well, and so then that could play out with how the licensing works for these loan servicing organizations, and your bill would prohibit them from knowingly misapplying payments and from acting deceptively or fraudulently. Does more need to, is that sufficient to just make sure that students get those loans paid back properly?
So to me, the items that you just described, it should be common sense for everybody, right? Of course, we shouldn't have deception or misappropriation or misapplying of funds, right? So for me, I think that this legislation is a good start. It moves us in that direction to safeguard and protect these folks, but also understand and honor, the commitment and the process they're undertaking to fund their education.
Anyone who's been in the situation of Destiny Belmont, who finds out that they've been making payments in good faith and what they think is happening isn't happening, do they have any recourse at this point?
That's what this bill seeks to do. It seeks to, number one, prevent it from even happening, and number two, provide some recourse, because if you have to have that license from the Department of Commerce to operate and service these loans, then you violate the student's Bill of Rights. Well, guess what? The Commerce Department has the ability to fine you or take that license away. It's the same thing I'm subjected to as a real estate professional. And guess what? I'd like to think I would always act with integrity, regardless of whether or not my license could be taken away. But guess what? It sure ensures that I do the right thing all the time, because I know that license would be in jeopardy if I don't.
Now, I've looked online, and this bill has made some movement in the Senate. Its companion in the House is also making movement. Are you hopeful that this bill can become law this session?
So I am an optimistic guy by nature. I'm always hopeful, but I'm also very realistic. It's a very busy session. We're coming up, we've already passed one deadline. We've got more deadlines coming. We've got some very significant things we have to figure out in terms of our budget, negotiating that, not to mention the pandemic, schools, businesses, etc. All that to say, it's a priority for me. I'm going to keep pushing for it. I want to see it move forward. Whether or not it happens this session remains to be seen.
Senator Zach Duckworth, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
A handful of DFL lawmakers recently called a press conference to offer their support for Governor Walz's Due North education plan.
It's been apparent to many folks across the state the additional needs we have when it comes to mental health support for our students and our schools. And not only that, but in this pandemic, those problems have been exacerbated and those needs are even more pressing. Minnesota has consistently been at the bottom nationally of the ratio of school counselors to students. The Senate DFL continues to put forward solutions to increase student to counselor ratios for our schools, but those efforts have been blocked by the Senate GOP. Our students deserve better. We must do more to invest in the whole child, which includes supporting their mental health and non-academic needs.
We are, again, championing the Teacher of Color and Indigenous Act. This is a comprehensive bill that starts with recruiting and attracting our teachers to go on to programs and become full licensed teachers. We're looking for the supports and the resources to increase the program completion, as well as when they're doing their student teaching, which is one of the most complicated times of getting a teaching licensure. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we're keeping those teachers in the schools.
We want every student to succeed and receive the high quality education that we have bestowed upon them, regardless of their zip code. We have to provide the funding necessary to do it. Education is one of the biggest areas of our budget. In fact, it's 44% of the Minnesota state budget. Education, E12, is 44% of the state budget. That's because of the high quality education is a core value of all Minnesotans.
The governor's budget proposal also provides expanded emergency assistance for post-secondary students facing temporary financial hardships due to COVID-19, which may threaten a student's ability to stay in school. And this assistance includes funds for food and housing, basic needs that are really important for students to keep on track with their education.
Senator Chuck Wiger is the minority lead of the Senate E12 Education Committee. He joined me this week to explain some of the priorities of the governor's educational plan, both for summer learning and for the future. Before we dig into Governor Walz's Due North education plan, I'd like to start with the governor's request from the legislature for $150 million for summer instruction. What is being proposed to get kids back on track?
It is essential right now that we provide mental health services to meet the social, emotional needs for students and staff, and money is available to do that. Additionally, we need to put together a program which the governor has provided funds, as well as the federal government, for summer school programming. Small class sizes, it would be voluntary, but it would provide enriched opportunities for students to catch up. Also, we could partner with community organizations, with the museums, with libraries, the YMCA. That's a part of what the governor and what the Senate DFL is proposing. very important as well would be for 4- and 5-year-olds. Nearly 6,000 students eligible for kindergarten last fall did not go. Parents made that choice, looking at their best interest, but there is a need for some additional work for students being ready for K. That is the #1 indicator, readiness for K, for ultimately graduating. And so funds would be made available for scholarships for students to be in high quality programs during the summer. There's money too for recent high school graduates that are going to graduate in May, so they can be ready in post-secondary options, whether it's through a Minnesota college, a vocational school, some funds for courses that they can take during the summer for that. There's also funds for adult basic education, which serves over 60,000 students, adults. And many times these persons are looking to improve on their literacy skills, their math skills, and they may be the parents of students in the system or older siblings. So it's a part of it. And finally, there's funds for school districts that have suffered financially. There's many now that are talking about budget cuts, but because of the enrollment decline, we would provide additional revenue for them. So it's a comprehensive program, $150 million to help students, staff, and parents recover as we get through the pandemic. It's needed.
So an infusion to kind of get everybody back on track. In the meantime, there was a recent press conference with you and other DFL lawmakers reiterating your support for Governor Walz's Due North education plan. And at that press conference, you said, it's crucial that we address each student's needs now, especially counseling, coping, and catching up. So I think even in what you said for summer school, that encapsulates some of what you're talking about. But what about the counseling piece?
Yes, a lot of students, as well as staff and parents, whose lives have been disruptive, like all of our lives, they are especially feeling the pain during this disruption. And when we talk about addressing their needs and catching up, a key part now is just the social, emotional aspects. One of the scourge of racism has also surfaced throughout during the pandemic, and even just recently, where people are still blaming the pandemic on Asians. The scourge of the tragic death of George Floyd, which has happened during the pandemic, and it's still playing out now as we watch a trial unfold. Students, not only of color, but many students are sensing a need for society to address these issues, and it's only exacerbated during the pandemic. And just very fundamentally, we have to remember that there have been students and families that have lacked sufficient food security. They have lost jobs. In some cases, they've lost family members. There are people. There's going to continue to be people whose lives will be lost. We are not through this. So it has taken a significant emotional toll on students, parents, and staff. And yes, they're resilient. We'll get through this, but additional help is needed. And those are parts of the programs that would be addressed in the Due North. And so social emotional needs, though, through counselors, social workers, working with organizations that address these needs. It's a community effort, and it needs to be done. And of course, the academic I mentioned in terms of summer school for catch up, and I mentioned recently too about the importance of the reading core, the math core, providing that assistance. So it's all hands on deck to continue in the effort for recovery, so that hopefully all students are going to be fully ready when we return to school in full-time in the fall for 21-22.
Well, and that leads perhaps to my next question, which is about full-service community schools. That was enacted by the legislature in 2015, and Governor Walz would like to see that program expanded. What is it that a full-service community school does well?
They improve student outcomes. They close the achievement gap. They close the opportunity gap. It's a win-win situation. I've been proud to be a sponsor of this legislation. I have visited these schools, and I've seen firsthand the results, the inspiration. Now, ideally, students entering the classroom are all ready to learn. That's certainly what teachers would like to see. And just through the challenges in society, we know that not everyone is ready. It might be food insecurity. It may be a lack of access to health care. It could be issues they're dealing with at home regarding mental health, or it could be any number of risk factors that are out there. A full service community school provides wraparound services to address that so that students are ready for K, or as well as ready for the entire system. And there are programs that could be in the healthcare area, and it may be going to a nurse, or for a doctor that could come in, a dentist, and these will improve a student's likelihood to learn if they can get these other issues addressed. Early education is a part of it too, high quality programs. So it's wraparound services so that students are ready to learn. And has it been successful? Absolutely. And Brooklyn Park, for example, or the Rochester Alternative Learning Center, the documents that we've looked at, and we ask for accountability when we invest, and it shows that the academic improvement in various measures has improved significantly. And so that's why we want to do more to improve student achievement, particularly for students of color, where we can close that achievement gap, close that opportunity gap, and that everyone benefits. So it's working. I'm sponsoring the bill, the governor is, and let's do more on what's working.
Senator Wiger, I have time for just one more question quickly, because there's a priority in the governor's plan to reimagine the high school experience to increase career and college readiness. Reimagine how?
Imagine How is all about making the high school experience as powerfully relevant as possible. It's bridging the experience from high school to post-secondary opportunity, whether that's going to be at a vocational school, at a traditional college, it could be going to the military or to a career. It's providing in-service learning opportunities. It's partnerships with labor unions. It's working with business. It's providing hands-on experience for students so they can taste what it might be like in the workplace. We're working with a number of the people in the private sector, as well as the Department of Employment, Economic Development. They're doing surveys on job opportunities that are out there. Where are there shortages? We're looking at pathways for students. And these can be scholarships as well, and working closely with community colleges. It's everyone working together to transform that experience in college or in high school to college, or whatever path it's going to be, so it's going to be as relevant and real as possible.
Senator Chuck Wiger, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Students are our future.
Join us again next week as we delve into more topics affecting Minnesotans. I'm Shannon Loehrke, and on behalf of all of us at Senate Media Services, thanks for watching.